Like many of you fine folks, I grew up watching a show called The Fairly Odd Parents. It's a wondrous tale about childhood and magic and making mistakes. You know, how you or I might make a mistake. We cause someone to have a bad day. We forget something important. And for Timmy Turner, well,
Remember the time you wished for the world's largest magnifying glass?
But I accidentally set the city on fire.
Which brings us to our next float. The recorded screams are so realistic.
I stopped watching this show around the time Cosmo and Wanda had a baby. But something about it stuck with me, more than some of the other Nickelodeon cartoons. And now I think I know why. Timmy Turner sucks. Timmy is a bad person. He doesn't deserve godparents. And honestly, he's kind of a supervillain. And I knew this was true. I had looked through old episodes to find evidence when I came across an episode that I'd actually never seen before. An episode that blew my mind. Which brings us to today's main discussion. Because I am going to be breaking down Timmy's Secret Wish. A 40-minute special that reveals some horrifying truths about the average kid who no one understands. Our episode begins with the little scamp trying to get to 1 million wishes, which I guess is super impressive to fairies. Jorgen, the commander, I guess, of the fairies, I don't know, like what, tells us that no kid has ever made 1 million wishes. And yeah, I mean, that's a lot of wishes. That's an insane amount of times that Timmy has taken advantage of, having fairies and implemented things into the world. I feel like the average person would only need 10 wishes, to get everything they wanted. And that's being generous. Just ask genies, right? A genie's gonna give you 3 wishes, and then he's gonna screw you over. And the fairies don't screw you over. They just give you the thing that you want. Anyway, so Jorgen takes Timmy and Cosmo and Wanda back to Fairy World, where they've prepared an absolute rager in his honor, right? They've got a parade, okay, they've got floats, and each float is a wish that Timmy made. It commemorates the wish, right?
And remember when you wished for the world's biggest barbecue?
But I accidentally set the city on fire.
Well, it turns out that Timmy's made some wishes that cause a decent amount of damage to the everyday people. And they're like, is it okay that Timmy has caused an unknowable amount of massed human suffering? And Jorgen's like, I don't know, probably not, but the Fairy Council's working on it as we speak. And hold the phone. The Fairy Council? There's a Fairy Council? Well, the Fairy Council ends up throwing Timmy in jail because,
And remember the time you didn't want to go to school and actually wished Dimsdale was on fire?
Yeah, but...
Voila!
Jorgen tells us that if convicted, Timmy could lose his godparents forever, along with every wish he's ever made, before immediately teleporting him to the court, what was the point of the jail cell? But anyway, so the trial for Timmy Turner begins. We meet the Fairy Council. We learn that the prosecutor for this case is none other than Poof's evil fairy twin, Foop.
I cannot express to you how much I hate this kid.
But it's all gonna be okay, right? Because our lawyer is Cosmo. Our lawyer is Cosmo.
We need to prove that I'm not the worst fairy god kid ever.
What? I thought we had to prove you were the worst god kid ever. What am I supposed to do with all this evidence against you?
So Foop takes the floor, and my man comes out swinging, right? He's like, did you know that Timmy Turner caused global warming. I'm serious. Timmy Turner caused... So the stakes are high, and things are not looking good for Mr. Turner. And honestly, it just keeps getting worse.
Mr. Laser, isn't it also true that since you've been in existence, you've enslaved 4,000 planets in the galaxy, causing pain and misery to untold millions?
And agony. Don't forget the agony.
But Cosmo and Wanda and Poof, I guess, bring up all the great wishes Timmy has made and all the good that he has done. And they win over the Fairy Council, who are the fairies really need to work on their government, because this is just an absolute mess. But that's a tale for another time. They convince the Fairy Council that Timmy isn't so bad, and then Foop, in a last-ditch effort to find something crazy, uncovers the biggest secret in fairy history. Poof reveals that Timmy has actually made 1,000,001 wishes. There was a wish that was unaccounted for by the Fairy Council, which they seem to not really account for anything, so just, keep up the good work, guys. And basically, we learned that Timmy made a wish that he remembers, but he also wished that Cosmo and Wanda would forget ever making this actually occur. So now you might be asking, if you haven't seen the episode, well, what is Timmy's secret wish? Well, I'll let him defend himself.
Don't be mad, but I secretly wish that everyone would stop aging so that I could stay 10 years old and keep my fairies forever.
But surely, how long ago did you make this wish? Did we lose, a few months?
50 years ago?
Why would you do that? That's messed up, because that affects the entire world, and now nobody ages, and that sounds like purgatory. That just wrecks the entire defense. Cosmo, he's out here, he's trying his best. He's not doing so well, but he's trying his best. And now, it turns out that Cosmo was Men in Blacked to forget putting the world in a hyperbolic time chamber. And it's just so messed up on so many levels. Because you think about characters like Crocker, and people who are now subjugated to live an eternity in whatever phase of their life that they're in. Timmy didn't just stop growing, he stopped the entire world from growing. And that's extremely, extremely selfish. So, our Fairy Council, who go along with whatever the last thing they heard is, decide that, in fact, Timmy Turner is the worst godchild ever.
Turner, you have made a secret wish and been found guilty of being the worst fairy god kid ever.
We're gonna take away the one thing he loves. His godparents. Oh, and also the million wishes he made. We're taking away those two. Okay. Bye. Okay, so the next part of this story is so convoluted and weird that I'm not gonna overthink anything. I'm just gonna tell you the events as they occur, and we're just gonna try to not think about it too much. Welcome to Dimsdale 50 years later, except it's kind of 50 years later. The technology has advanced significantly. Everything floats now, so that's futuristic. And everyone in the world is 50 years older than they were. But the weird thing about this is that none of the Dimsdale residents actually remember the 50 years that they missed. So what they do remember is magically aging 50 years. And like, I don't know, this seems like a pretty major hole in the fairy count. Oh, I'm not overthinking. We're gonna keep going. Okay, so what happens next? They're messing around with the new technology. We get a little bit of background into all these old Dimsdale people. Timmy's with his friends, but they're old, and Vicky doesn't know how to use some futuristic technology, and Vicky blows herself up. Vicky is canonically dead in this timeline, so Timmy sits down on this park bench, and he's sitting next to a man we know well, Denzel Crocker, who looks identical to how he always does, and Timmy mentions that, and he's like, yeah, I thought everyone knew. When I was 10 years old, I had fairy godparents, and they left, and then it was a traumatic experience for me, and now I look like this forever. And Timmy's like, oh, I think I also had fairy godparents. It's like, will someone just check on Crocker? Like, maybe just like, I don't know, like, it feels like he just gets so ignored. Anyway, Crocker's like, oh my god, maybe you did have godparents. Hey, come with me to my dungeon underneath my house. And Timmy's like, sure, why not? And so they go to the dungeon, and Crocker has a rocket ship. Crocker's rocket crashes into the living room, where luckily there is a matter transporter. And they finally go again for us, but for the first time for them, to Fairy World. We're back in Fairy World, and there's only one problem. We didn't have a plan. We don't know who Timmy's fairies were, and we don't really know what we're looking for. But luckily, thank God, Timmy remembers his fairies' names.
My tongue. Hiya, they were both named Zeke. If any of you know two fairies named Zeke, can you tell them we're waiting for them at the corner of Cosmo and Wanda? Cosmo and Wanda. That's it!
So they find Cosmo and Wanda, and they immediately make Timmy look like a 10-year-old boy again, because they're a little freaked out. They're kind of like very happy to see each other, but something's off. They're missing the baby. The baby's not there because all of Timmy's wishes taken away. That was what the Fairy Council deemed. Cosmo and Wanda, Timmy, and Crocker go and find Jorgen, who has really let himself go. Feels super bad about erasing Poof from existence, and he's having a hard time, and he's like, yo, we totally gotta get that baby back. That baby's really cool. And Cosmo and Wanda are like, yeah, and then they're all like, yeah, and then Jorgen explains that there is actually a space where deleted wishes go whenever they are deleted by the Fairy Council. And so they travel to this black and white dream space and start immediately getting attacked. They have to fight off this Mike Wazowski looking creature that Timmy wished up at one point. Flash over to Poof and Foop. They're together and fighting a bunch of garden gnomes that have claws that Timmy also wished for. The group comes to rescue them. Meanwhile, Foop switches over to the gnome side briefly, and then it's time to go. They've got the baby. They've got everything. They're heading out of the Hoka-Poconos through the window of time, and they're about to make it when this giant bird comes and it eats fairies, and so Timmy has to pretend to be a fairy so that this bird will follow him, and he distracts the bird, sacrificing himself as the window of time closes that his friends can live. We get back to Fairy Court. The Fairy Council is furious. They're like, you can't just bring a deleted baby back. Like, that's, you guys are breaking so many rules, and that's not okay. And Wanda's had it. She's like, you guys need to get your shit together. Like, this is crazy. Like, you deleted our baby to punish Timmy, and Timmy's not so bad, right? Well, she admits that Timmy isn't great, but you know, the baby. Look at Poof. Look at how cute this thing is. Are you really going to put this thing back with the gnomes? Is that what you're about to do? Get your house in order. The fairy council, you know, who are very amenable, are essentially like, yeah, that's, you know, a solid point. And then they're like, oh, and also Timmy sacrificed himself. And they're like, wow, what a beautiful gesture. Okay, so we're just gonna reverse everything we did and go back. And so, you know, Timmy is brought back to fairy court, and they're like, you're not the worst god kid ever. I guess you and your baby and your godparents can all be together. And Timmy's like, wow, you guys are the best. You know. And so Timmy returns home to a Dimsdale that is now fixed, I guess, in time. But it's kind of unclear if Timmy ages now. I think Timmy does age now. Although, you know, like, we would never really see that. But he's completely forgiven by the Fairy Council for all this, and then the episode ends. It just ends. And I was a little confused, I guess. Because, what exactly is the message there? And why on earth, after all this has come to light, would everyone be so willing to forgive the lovable little Timmy Turner? And it's crazy. Real quick, I'm just gonna say a theory that I have, that I just came up with, and it's definitely 100% true. I think that at some point Timmy wished for every fairy or every person or every being in the universe to be like really, really stupid, like dumber than him. And that's how we kind of got into a situation here where like no one knows what they're doing. But it was a secret wish, and Timmy wished for it to, you know, be erased from the memories and not be accounted for, and, you know, it wasn't, and that's just, you know, one of the secret, because do we know that Timmy doesn't have, like, 100 more secret wishes? We know, because they just, like, found this one after, like, 50 years. And so, who's to say that at some point Timmy didn't make like hundreds of other secret wishes? Who's to say he doesn't continue making secret wishes? There is virtually no accountability. This episode is essentially, you know, like, we're gonna address the horrible things that Timmy has done, and then we're gonna leave it behind and just keep going with what we got. And I gotta respect that. I gotta respect that from a storytelling perspective. I mean, this kid is so evil, and he has done so many horrible things, and then he, like, kind of sacrificed himself a little bit. But mostly it was because the baby was cute. The all-knowing gods of the universe let him get away with causing global warming. And it's just so insane. But yeah, guys, this has been the case against Timmy Turner, and I have gone into detail about this episode, Timmy's Secret Wish, which I had never seen, and now I am just, it's so crazy. Like, it's just so crazy. I think it kind of sums up everything that I've always thought about Timmy Turner as a character. He's selfish, and his problems, you know, they're not great. His parents don't really love him, and Vicky sucks, but like, I always was told that, you know, the fairies go to like the saddest kid in the world. Is that right? And I have trouble believing that Timmy Turner at any point was the saddest kid in the world. I'm honestly not even sure that he's the saddest kid in his classroom. I don't know how, but my man got 2 godparents and then managed to wish himself a 3rd. And I am, I haven't watched this show. I'm not caught up or anything, but I hear there's like a dog now, and maybe like another person who he has to share his fairies with, which I think is great. But if you enjoyed this type of content, please consider leaving a comment, liking, subscribing. We do a lot of different kinds of things here, and there's definitely going to be more of this type of thing to come, so stick around. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, fuck Timmy Turner. Let's go.